Real.
For people that didn't see the early show, we had a bit of a snafu with the go live button, and so we got 30 seconds of the green room on our platforms. I went through and cleaned those up though, so we should be safe now. Good morning, everybody. Greetings from San Francisco. Tell us where you're coming from in the comments or wherever you're watching us. It's good to see you again.
We have a very exciting show today because it's one of those shows where, uh, you know, Zach is going to show us a problem in computer vision that he solved uh, because of the contest, right? It was the
Mm-hmm.
contest was the motivation which prompted him to solve the problem. And it is one of those things when I say that AI is pretty much going and, it's in many different fields. It's having an impact across industries. And you'll see one example where, how the manual work is being replaced by AI. So very exciting stuff.
Yeah, super exciting. Good morning. Good morning or evening, rather. India, New York, Italy, Arizona, Belgium, Toronto. Notice I said it right. Southern Germany, Boston, Cologne, Germany, Torino, Italy, Colombia, Maine, Indonesia, Kenya. Hello, Kenya.
It's great all over the world.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, our Kickstarter campaign for deep learning with TensorFlow and Keras is live. We had our spotter moment just just an hour back or so. We hit 300 people. So
Excellent.
that's great. Thank
Excellent.
you. If you have backed the campaign, thank you so much. If you're sitting on the fence thinking about it, please go and check it out.
It's
If you
opencv.org/Kickstarter.
That's great. Okay, so should we start? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to OpenCV weekly webinar. And today I have with me Mr. Zach Bilta, who is a research scientist at the University of Southern California. And he is a participant in OpenCV Spatial AI competition. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Great. And he's going to show us a great example of how you can solve real world problems using the OpenCV AI Kit Lite, OGD Lite. And this actually helps him and his lab mates solve a problem counting, particles, or what do we call it? These are bacterial particles?
Bacteria, CFU is a good term for it.
Okay, CFU in a Petri dish. So that's the topic of the conversation today. And also with us is Phil Nelson, who is the content manager at OpenCV. Welcome, Phil. If anything goes wrong, it's Phil's mistake.
That's usually the case. Yes, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. I'm still here, everybody. If this is your first time joining us, or if you've been here since day one, this is episode 45, by the way.
Wow.
There's a few things we do here that you should know about. One is we use the Zoom Q&A functionality during the show. So use that little Q&A button in the bottom of your screen to ask a question if you have one at any time during the webinar. And we'll do our best to fill it into conversation or save some time at the end to ask ones that we couldn't get to during the regular presentation. We'll also be doing a very special giveaway thanks to our sponsors at Microsoft Azure of 200 hours of Microsoft Azure credit on their awesome Intel hardware. So stay tuned for that.
That's great. So, Zach, the show is yours. You could give a shorter. You could give a short introduction beyond what I had given, so that people get to know you better, and then we can start the slides.
Sure. Thank you, Phil, and for running this, and Satya, as well for putting this on. So I'm Zach, and I am a research technician at the University of Southern California, and basically working with sort of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I'm originally from Iowa. Actually, I just moved to California back in July, and I did my undergrad, my graduate work at the University of Iowa. And I moved here because I wanted the sunshine, but also because it really seemed like they were doing some important work, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so, a little introduction to the project. The counting of these CFUs was something that everyone in the lab I'm currently in does, and we do it's done sort of manually. There are sort of more automated style techniques like apps and large expensive robots, but they're either very expensive, very large, or maybe not quite as accurate as we'd hoped. So at the time, it's done manually, and it's done manually by many labs around the world. So
What does CFU stand for?
So it stands for colony forming unit. It is the well, we'll get to that shortly. Okay. But for right now, the I just wanted to say that the whenever I'm stuck with the problem of sitting and say counting 100, 200 small dots, my mind starts thinking like maybe this is something that a non-human would like to do better. So with that, I said I will start the show here, or the slideshow here.
I think the same thing when I'm counting hundreds of dots.
Yeah. I think I just shared the Zoom. Did I?
No, we can see you. We can see the we can see the slides here.
Okay.
Yep, looks good.
So my team is LA Inoculum. Feel free to follow us on Twitter, and by us I mean me. Today I'll be showing you the Petri dish scanner I've been working on to count bacteria, and I think it also opens the door for a lot more projects similar to this beyond counting bacteria, and I could maybe touch on that later in the episode as well. So to begin with, I wanted to quickly define inoculum, since it turns out it's not a hugely regular term. It's basically the material that is transferred from one media to the biological material that's transferred from one medium, whether it be a liquid medium, nutrient-rich liquid medium, to more of an agarose sort of jello type medium, or it can be transferred what you might know as vaccine from a vaccine into a person or into an animal. It's just it's the transferring of this biological material to get an immune response, or to just sort of introduce a foreign substance. So in microbiology, the inoculum is the transferred biological material, and we often use liquid media to kind of grow up large numbers of this bacterium, but then it can be transferred to an agar plate to more specifically focus on single colonies, single CFU, to be able to control for different, for example, genetic makeup of the bacteria that we're looking for. It's important that this process is done in a sterile environment, because bacteria are small and there's bacteria all around us. And so we often use heating flames from a gas burner in order to keep this process sterile when we're both handling the liquid media as well as the agar. So in order to deal with these bacteria, if I were to grow up bacteria in a liquid media overnight, there could be just billions of these cells, and it's important that in science as well as engineering and everything that we stay that we can be quantity-wise very precise. So when we have these billions in a solution,
you got to do the Carl Sagan voice. Billions and billions.
Billions and billions. It's important that we kind of get a handle on this number, and we're not going to be able to do that with billions and billions. So we often have to quantify them somehow. And much like you would a drug dosage or a viral load, or in this example, a bacteria, we would do what's known as a serial dilution, meaning one after the other in a row dilutions. So basically, you can just dilute, tenfold over and over again, so that rather than having hundreds of millions of colonies on these plates, like my arrows are pointing to, these are uncountable amount. If you had more, it might even be called what we refer to as a lawn, which is basically just one solid, just lawn, grass of bacteria. And the reason that's sort of an issue is because each one of these CFUs, which is sort of these dots on these plates, represents a genetically, or one cell that has propagated into a colony. So this isn't one cell we're looking at. It's a colony forming unit. So it's many of the same cell. So this is the same genetic makeup that is sort of propagated into this visible sort of glob. And so if we begin to get these lawns forming where all these different globs are kind of smushing together, it can become a problem because we kind of lose control over the genetic makeup of the cells that we're working with. They would just become, because each one of these colony forming units sort of has the ability to mutate slightly. So there's just a variety of different, slightly different or more than slightly different genotypes going on. So it's important that we can isolate one colony forming unit that has sort of a homogeneous genotype. So we dilute it down until we get to a countable number, say 159 colonies. You can count lower, but once you get down to like 17 or 2, 0, that becomes more statistically inaccurate as you get to such a low number. So, but 159 is something that humans can count. We can see they're not forming together, so it makes it easy to get a handle on that number. And then all we have to do is, well, if we use, say, a milliliter of our solution and we got 159 colonies, well, I have 100 milliliters total, so I can backtrack that calculation and say, okay, I have approximately 6 billion bacteria in this solution of 10 milliliters. So it's just a way of kind of counting the total solution.
So what you're visibly looking at are colonies, not individual bacteria, right? You cannot see a single one. But,
exactly.
But what you're looking at are these colonies, and each colony, is it the same type? You said that there could be a distribution, but within the same colony, they are pretty much alike.
So these would all be the same bacteria, but each colony will have its own kind of variations and mutations. But each colony between colonies, between CFUs, will have their own mutations and variations. But the bacteria cells that are making up this clump colony, they should be genetically identical.
Got it.
So here's some examples, real life examples of plates. These are agar plates, and you can see that we've got these CFUs growing kind of independent from each other and kind of spread out. But these bottom ones right here, that are getting kind of crowded and just too numerous to count. You can imagine if we're sitting here and trying to count these as a human, I might get to 985 and think, wait, was it 985 I was at, or 958? I'm backwards here. And every time you make a small counting error like that, we're just statistically removing our accuracy. So it's important that you are accurate in these counts, and so it can become somewhat of a problem when you're counting manually.
It's just very tedious work that has to be precise, but you want to do it quickly. And so, I can see why that would be just a big pain in the ass, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
When I was actually a grad student, I worked on this problem of cryo-electron microscopy. One of the problems there was exactly this kind of thing, where you had to actually locate protein macromolecules, which were frozen in ice. So that's where the cryo part of the cryo-electron microscopy came from. And in those, the very first meeting I had with the person, it is fascinating because, she showed me a micrograph which had all these particles, right? And the micrograph was so noisy that I could not see anything. So I stood there, for 1 minute she was explaining, and I was waiting for the, she was explaining everything, and I was just listening because waiting for the picture to come up. And the whole 1-2 minutes go by, she explains everything, and she says, what do you think? I said, show me the picture, I'll tell you what what I think. So that is the picture. And it was like, you cannot see anything in that, pretty much it was, and then she would zoom in and show me, oh, you see this little thing here. So, but fortunately, I was surprised that you could actually use computer vision techniques to detect all those as well. There was enough signal for humans to recognize, so there was enough signal for computers to recognize also. So yeah, so that these problems sometimes can be looking very hard, but if a human can solve a problem of this kind, visual problem, then given the current state of the art in computer vision, we can automate the process. Go ahead.
Totally
Zach.
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. These problems exist, all over the place. And I know for experience in science, but I'm sure in engineering, art, everywhere, that tedious visual problems that computers could easily detect.
Yeah.
So when I do this counting, by hand, it's literally, I take a plate like this. They're about the size of your palm, and I the actual plate, and I take a marker and I kind of dot each one. And so, between 50 to 200 or 300, and I sit there and dot them. It takes me about 2 minutes or so, 3 minutes maybe for each plate. I
Right.
know some faster people can do it in as little as a minute. So it doesn't seem like as much of a problem. However, what the issue you run into is that you're not always doing, or pretty much never doing, one plate. It's one plate per strain. So maybe you're using, three, four, five different strains of bacteria, and you need to do each one in triplicate or duplicate, so 2 or 3, to make sure you're getting enough power in your for your statistics. So if we're doing 5 strains, 3 plates each, we're up to 15 plates. Maybe you have 2 or 3 different time points. Maybe you have some other variables that you worked into there. So now all of a sudden you're up to 20 plates or 30 plates, and your 1 minute for each plate or 2 minutes for each plate is becoming 30 minutes to an hour. That could be every day, and that could be everyone in my lab has to go over this process. So that could be 5 or 6 people who are spending 30 minutes to an hour, 2 hours dotting the back of a plate, which
Right.
they could be doing incredible things with their incredible minds that are much more complicated than computers.
Right. But there is one more thing I would like to add to that, and we were discussing right before the webinar, is that when we talk about computer solutions, we do not have to restrict ourselves to human scale. So right now, the number of, you want to keep it at a manageable level of, 100 or so colonies, CFUs. But if a computer is doing, you could actually take a picture of many of these Petri dishes at once. Let's say you could take a picture of 100 of them, as long as the resolution of the camera is big enough. And you could do the analysis on 100 times the data instead of restricting ourselves to human scale of 100 or so. So that completely changes the game. Your statistics are more robust. It's done immediately, and you can carry on with your experiment. The other thing is, when I was again a grad student, one of my lab mates, I was waiting for some results to come out when we were doing some experiments, and it was taking about 5 minutes or so, right? And he said that, why don't you optimize it? I said, it's taking only 5 minutes. I can just wait. He says, no, the level of experiments you can do, something that runs in 30 seconds versus 5 minutes, it is insane. Just that 5 minutes, right? Just the fact that you have to wait for 5 minutes, it can waste so much of your time versus something that goes in 30 seconds. So I spent the day optimizing it, brought it down to, less than a minute. And it changed the game for me, right? I could do the experiment so fast. It changes the game, even that little 5x difference. So yeah, those are the 2 things I wanted to just point out.
Yeah, there's a saying, I don't know if I get it right, but I use it sometimes in my lab, which is when I'm trying to like figure out, maybe this could be done faster in a different way. I'll say like, don't underestimate my ability to use 6 hours optimizing a 30-second problem
Right.
into a 2-second automated problem.
Right. Right.
But it adds
It's
up
a
eventually.
double-edged sword for sure.
Well, it scales up, right? It adds up for you. For
Right.
you, it may just save, a little bit of time, but then your lab mates also benefit from your
Right.
innovation, and that's where the scale comes in.
Right. Exactly. You touched on a point there that I think is really, I'm really running into it with this project, which is, the use of these plates. One of the biggest difficulties I'm having is sort of the manipulation of the physical plate with the Lego Technic, especially taking the lid off. And I think the reason that is because these plates were designed to be easiest for the hands to use, for humans to use.
Yeah.
So what we run into is often like the optimization using automation of these problems from the human perspective of the problem. So like I said, I'm trying to figure out how to use the computer vision to count 100 colonies, when you immediately said, why is it got to count 100? Humans can count 100. This can count more than 100, or you can only count one plate. This can count 10 plates.
Yeah.
And the same with this dish. It wasn't designed for necessarily automation. It was designed for me to open up. So maybe looking at these problems, we kind of have to backtrack a little bit and remember to how to best automate the problem solution rather than automate the human solution to the problem.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, another analogy would be that let's say you want to build a security camera, right? And humans, the way they inspect things is, oh, I'm looking this way, I cannot look behind. For looking behind, I have to turn around and look behind. But if you're designing a security system, you're not going to design a camera which looks this way and then turns around and looks that way. There's a lot of mechanical, mechanically that's inefficient. You just put another set of cameras looking back.
Literally eyes in the back of your head. That's
Yes.
all we need. Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Right.
sorry, that was a diversion. Zach, go ahead.
No, it illustrates the point perfectly. So yes, we have these CPU colony forming units that are, each one is sort of genetically homogeneous in each of these white dots. And all of the white dots are the same bacteria, but they are potentially mutated or slightly different genetically. So the basic idea to the problem was that, we have these stacks of maybe, for example, here's, 10 plates. And we would first we have to remove the plate from the stack because we can't, read them in an entire stack. We might be able to read 10 plates at once sitting side by side, but as they are, when we use them and carry them and move them in these stacks, we can't, see. So you have to remove each individual plate from the stack and then remove the lid. And the reason that I've decided to go about removing the lid is because when we count them, we turn them over and just sort of dot the bottom of them. But the problem that we were running into, or I've heard of as well, when it came to using like the apps in your phone, is that sometimes these CFUs grow on the sides of the plates. And so from a top down perspective, you can't see those. And then also this plate is this plastic that also can reflect light. And then so you're getting these glares that even my current some of the pictures I've taken for training my model have the lid on, and I'm taking the picture with the lid on, and the lid can cause the glare as well. So the solution to this problem to me was to just, instead of taking a picture of the bottom with the plate or taking a picture from the top with the lid, is just to take the lid off and take a picture directly on to the agar. Then I can get, yes.
Can I give a suggestion? I have not seen the rest of your slides, so I don't know whether you have already come up with the solution. But one solution in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is completely transparent, right?
Yes.
Backlighted. So if you put this against a monitor in a black room, I mean, you can finally design something else, but to test whether the solution will work or not is that go into a dark room, turn on the monitor, put this against a white monitor, like make the monitor white, and then take a picture. So this backlighting, if that works, you will see that everything shows up because the dots would be blocking it. And you can do it with a flash, if flash doesn't affect your the bacterial
Oh,
colony, do it with a flash, and you will get perfect segmentation of your colonies.
So
And all you need to do is
you're saying like count the shadows instead of the.
right.
and invert it. You can also invert it, and you get perfect alpha matte. So this is a standard technique in alpha matting when you want to do some, like we did some jewelry segmentation at one point, and it was very difficult to do because jewelry has this it is shiny sometimes and things like that. You cannot do green screen matting because it would reflect, the green screen would reflect on the jewelry, so it would look really bad, right? So we took
Right.
two pictures, one with a regular RGB and the other one was a backlit photo, right? So the light from the back is obstructed by this jewelry. We put the jewelry on a transparent mannequin and lit it from the back, and you get this perfect segmentation. You invert the mask, do some cleaning, and you get this perfect segmentation, and it works beautifully. So something worth trying for this problem if that's an option.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even so just the backlighting in general, I mean, it potentially could lead to more accurate, even when still using all the same ideas I'm using here, it might lead to more accurate counts from the model. So I mean,
The glare is
definitely
gone.
something to look into. Right.
The most important thing is that the glare is completely gone when you're backlighting it.
Right.
Yeah.
So counting these bacteria, we decided, the best way would be to kind of pop the lid off, take a picture directly onto the plate. Then we can see everything, even the ones growing on the sides, just from this above view. It also started working into my head that sort of the only thing we do from outside of the plate when it comes to the actual science that people do using Petri dishes, the only thing we do from outside of the plate is view it, is basically, take a picture with our eyes or take a picture with a camera. Everything happens inside the plate. So if we were able to develop an automated way to get that lid off, we're not just talking about snapping pictures anymore. We're talking about we could add things to the plate. We could add the bacteria to the plate, pick off colonies from the plate. It really opens the doors to what we can automate with this process. So remove the plate, remove the lid, scan the plate with the Oak D-Light, and then backtrack on the robot to basically put these plates into a discard stack that I can come grab, pick up the stack, and go on my merry day. So rather than this stack of 10 plates taking me 15 minutes, I would hopefully be able to stack down, have it run through them, basically just snapping a photo and counting the CFUs. And I hopefully wouldn't even be able to go do very much, honestly. For 10 plates, I'd have to come right back and grab the stack, and I'd have a nice list of CFU counts ready for me that are accurate and I can use for future science, whether that be counting the number of bacteria for use in an experiment, or maybe the amount of bacteria on the plate is the experiment. Maybe I treated two different plates. What is this? Two different plates with
Those friggin' auto updaters, man, they get you every time.
Yeah. One plate I treated with a drug or some sort of probiotic, and I want to see, okay, if I treated this bacteria with the probiotic, this bacteria without the probiotic, how is the growth difference? And then I take the picture and count each one. And now we're doing an entire experiment basically with with the Oak D-Light and this easy automation that is easy to build, cost-friendly. We can put this on a bench top as opposed to, like I said, there are some other types of automated methods that are very large scale in the scientific field, and I'm sure in engineering and others. A lot of these sort of automated processes are humongous, expensive, very expensive pieces of equipment that can hardly fit on bench tops. So
big enough that you'd refer to it as an apparatus.
Right.
For people who do not know, the goal of this competition, there were two requirements of this competition. First of all, the problem should be solved using OAK-D Lite, which is a smart camera by Luxonis. And we have made it in collaboration with OpenCV and Luxonis. So OAK-D Lite had to be used. And the second thing was that it needed to use a Lego robot. So a robot made of Legos. You could choose from many different kits, but that was the goal. And what Zach is showing are both components, the Lego robot as well as the computer vision part, which was done using OAK-D Lite.
And you can buy your own OAK-D Lite at store.opencv.ai.
Thanks.
Oh, all right. So the Lego kit that I'm utilizing here is the Lego Robotic Inventors Kit. And so in order to first attack the problem, I first had to get to know the equipment, the software, the hardware, and really know what I'm dealing with in order to utilize that as a tool to make the automation process. So first I decided to tackle both the ejector method for getting these plates out of the stack of plates, as well as sort of what's going to go into making the claw that's going to be able to grab the lid off of each one of these plates, because it's a very fine, I don't know if I can share myself here. No, well,
unshare your screen so that
okay.
your picture would be big. Yeah. Now
so it's a very
it's a pretty delicate operation for a Lego gripper.
Right, it's a pretty delicate operation for my hands, to be honest with you. So that's why that was definitely is the most challenging part. I mean, I'm still working on it to this day.
Zach, in terms of your background, I mean, obviously your background is in biology, but did you have a lot of programming experience prior to this project?
So I don't know if I'd say a lot. I'd say some. I took a couple courses at the University of Iowa when I was there, and then I do a lot of self-learning.
Iowa.
That's great.
Yeah. So I do a lot of self-learning, and so like I kind of make my own curriculum off of online materials, and
excellent.
Coursera, Code Academy, Khan Academy, all the different ways to sort of put together. So I have a mixture of Python, JavaScript, and C++. I play around with Unity a lot. So before I got to working on this computer vision problem, I was really into playing on Unity and sort of learning how to build sort of 3D models on that. Tinkercad. This little Lego guy I got here, I got from entering a Unity contest where I made a Lego Unity minifigure sort of mini game. And so nice. they gave these out, the cute little Unity figures. So yeah, I'm always kind of finding ways to sort of like inspire and learn and figure things out. And so robotics and computer vision, as well as the computer science portion of it, this is all sort of like a hobby, a passion project of mine. Right. And I just think it really mixes well with the science too.
Yeah, and career-wise, it makes a big difference if you stack some of these talents, right? You have one thing, right? If you're an expert in one thing, that's something. But if you're an expert in two different domains and you can overlap them, you can use expertise in one, like a good biologist who is also an excellent programmer, right? You won't find many of those, and then you would be among the best in the world, right? So, sure. And add one more thing, let's say robotics, right? Or computer vision. And now you're definitely in the top 100 in the world, right? So adding some of these skills, stacking some of these skills together, it's a very good career, choice when you do this.
Definitely. I mean, when just even for, in my lab, like scientific analysis, we use different programming languages, and like some of my prior experience was able to make me jump on using, some of the lab's programming software for data analysis. So like just in that environment, there's a lot of crossover. I was showing this presentation to some of my lab mates, and they were super impressed by the robot, and which to me was interesting because like I felt like when I showed the robot versus when I'm like introducing this biology, the people on this webinar who are watching from home probably a lot of them have like robotics experience, and they're going to be more impressed by the biology part of it. They're going to say, wow, that's incredible. And so whereas they maybe not quite as impressed with the robotics because they're all building these at home themselves. So just it made it easier to be impressive just by having those two different kind of sides of things. When I'm building it all myself here using both sets of skills. So just interesting what it impresses different groups of people.
Yeah, you got to be able to read the room.
Yeah. So back to the hardware software of the problem. I have one of the pre-builds that come with instructions from the inventor's kit kind of comes with making of a claw. And I thought, well, that's a good way to start. Let's see what they recommend for making of a claw. So this claw here is off of what I think is Charlie, and it's basically color activated. So sort of learning the mechanism of turning rotational force into more of a linear closing grip force.
How smooth are the servos on that? They look pretty smooth.
Yeah, they are definitely. I've been impressed. It's all they're very easy to use, and they're very I feel like it's very kid friendly. Like I feel like they're very robust. You could toss this thing against a wall, pick it up, kind of twist it, play with it, chew on it, and they'll still work. They still work quite smoothly.
Yeah, our friends at Cortic Technology have a really cool visual programming setup that is compatible with this. Folks out there should check out if they've got the inventor kit or are planning on getting it.
Definitely. So claws are being done. Obviously, claw methods are used. Robotic arms, hands, you've seen them. So that's in the side of my mind when I was beginning this process. And then I started wondering, okay, how am I going to get the dish out of either the top of the stack or the bottom of the stack, or I guess the middle of the stack? I began with sort of a first in, first out approach, where basically taking the bottom plate out of the stack. And I began with this, what I referred to as like a swinging arm hockey stick method, which, works. I liked it. It kind of got the job done. Mm-hmm. But it felt a little clunky to me, and it didn't feel as precise as I was hoping to get at. So I kind of put that to the side. And
all of the Canadians in the chat are silently critiquing your stick technique.
Yes. So I moved on to this different form of dish ejector. It's a simple rotation to linear mechanism, sort of using just a couple of the Lego Technic beams, and it basically pushes the bottom plate out from underneath, which was exactly what I was going for, and it sort of does so in a linear fashion, which I wanted. The only problem was that it would push the plate out. The rest of the stack would be sitting on top of this linear actuator type Technic beam, but then when it would pull back on the return stroke, the plates would just fall straight down, which would be what I wanted, sort of a gravity feed type mechanism, except they didn't fall down straight down. They fell down sort of like the front end first, because the beam came out. So I had this problem of, okay, now I've got this thing crumbling every time I try to push a plate out. So these are the kinds of problems that just keep emerging. They just, you don't know it until you build it and you see it and you realize, yes, I got to fix this now. So the way I updated this was to use a 4-bar linkage double rocker mechanism. The inspiration for this came from the locomotive, when I was picturing sort of a train, and how it's a similar method to the linear actuator, sort of the arm that I had pushing the plates, except once it gets the full stroke to the end, it then descends down. So basically lowering the stack, all of it simultaneously back down to the platform, returning the beam, and then raising up again to begin a new stroke.
That's clever.
So
That's very cool and also sounds very awesome. 4-bar linkage double rocker mechanism is some serious engineering sounding stuff.
So I really like this one for solving that problem at the time. Or actually, this is still the current method I'm using for this removing dish ejector, removing the plates. So here are just a few photos of sort of midway through my build. I was having the ejector eject these plates into this sort of next area of the robot where I would have the claw set up in order to grab or grip the lid, remove it for the next process, the oak delight process. I began with a simple claw similar to the Charlie one we saw at the beginning of the presentation. However, although it does grab the lid and hold it, I found that it was just, I could not figure out a way to lift the entire claw that was automated. I could do it with my hand there, obviously, but it was heavy, and it was never going to be able to get out of the way of the rest of the plate so that I could move it, either get the camera in there or get the plate out of there to the camera. So I had to basically scrap that entire claw. And I came up with a second claw, grabber, gripper. And this one was lighter and could kind of get in there without causing too much, taking up too much room. And I could lift it from the side as opposed to having to lift it from the top. I will show some examples here. What I liked about this was that I was able to add these 4 grippers onto each one of the claws, or 2 grippers on each claw, that really made sure I got a handle on the lid. It's important that when grabbing the lid and moving it and replacing it, that it can't fall. It basically that interferes with the entire process. If the lid falls, basically it's like the front person in the line tripping. Everyone trips over them. So this entire process has to be pretty smooth, very little room for error. Introducing a little error at multiple stages, those just multiply and they add, and will cause problems for the whole.
It seems like it could also foul your data up as well, right? Like you may screw up, some of the colonies just by having it kind of jarred around a lot, right?
Yeah, definitely. And drop the lid on the plate inside on the agar, like you could have a mess of issues. So I began feeling like the consistency here was not quite up to par for what I wanted. But here's the ejector followed by the claw, sort of like showing what my thought process is for how I'm kind of wanting it to go about.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that you've got little Lego bacteria in there as well for.
Yes, I definitely wanted to have some Lego in there. Here I have just a few kind of images and videos to show some other parts of the robot. So the first image here is sort of showing how I'm imagining the oak light to be set up in potentially. Basically, it'll be facing downwards so that the plate can kind of slide in underneath it, or potentially there's possibility that the oak light is the thing in motion itself, where the plate stands still. I remove the lid and then the oak light goes over the plate. I haven't quite for sure figured out which way it's going to go, but as of right now, it's most likely going to be the oak light facing down and the plate being put underneath the plate and then removed. And the movement of all this after the dish is ejected and the claw removes the lid would be done on what I was thinking would be one of these platforms, but that has evolved as well. So it might be using one of these platforms, or it might be using more of a sort of a conveyor belt system. I haven't completely gotten that taken care of as well. And then finally, I decided that I still didn't quite trust Claw 2, so I sort of made some upgrades to it to make it to where, I didn't want it to do it until I got it. I didn't want to make the claw and optimize it until I could get the lid off the plate. I wanted to update and optimize the claw until I couldn't miss the lid. So there's a difference between getting it and not missing it.
Right.
And this claw, I felt confident that it's really made in such a way that it really can't miss and it really can't drop. So I became really happy with this.
It's almost like a caliper style.
Exactly.
Kind of, yeah. Also, things you probably only hear on OpenCV weekly webinar. I didn't trust Claw 2.
So to change gears a little bit, I've been going over sort of some of the automation problems, but I also needed the counting of the CFUs as well. And to do that, I watching these webinars, I learned about RoboFlow and how they have this software set up to sort of help train models to do anything from object detection to, for my example, CFU detection and counting. And one thing I'd have to say is they have really incredible customer service. And I know I made this joke with some of my lab mates. This is like I'm selling the product or something, but they contacted me like out of like on their own, and they just have been nothing but try and help me and have been really personalized in helping. I couldn't have probably learned how to use this software as quickly without their assistance. And they've really taken to take it almost personally to making sure that this project is moving along smoothly, and I've really appreciated it. You really got to appreciate when customer service, it really seems like they care. So
yeah, big shout out.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Satya. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, that we are lucky that we are working with these two groups of people. RoboFlow is a silver member of OpenCV, and they are really excellent with customer service. Same with Luxonis. They are also really awesome with customer service on the hardware side. So it's not like, it's a magic bullet or something. We just got lucky on both those groups.
Yeah, definitely. And your buddy Salo's in the chat here. He says you're a legend, Zach.
Thanks, Salo.
If anybody out there wants to sign up for RoboFlow, the best way to do that is go to roboflow.com/OpenCV.
Yeah, and also if you would by any chance like a RoboFlow hat, after this webinar, I'll be having, if you go to my Twitter, I'll be figuring out a way to do a raffle. If you just follow me, and I'll make a tweet basically about how I'll do the raffle, and I'll be raffling off a RoboFlow hat. I'm sure I'll be in contact with RoboFlow, and we'll be able to get that all set up and get you a really cool RoboFlow hat as soon as possible. So just follow me at Inoculum LA on Twitter and look for that raffle tweet.
I've got one right here. It looks like this.
Actually, I think the one that I'll be raffling off is like a beanie with the RoboFlow R. It's really cool.
Oh man,
looking.
Yours is cooler.
It's it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, just so people know that using RoboFlow was not a requirement for the competition. So people are discovering some of the tools by themselves. So I just wanted to put it out there that it was not really a requirement of the competition. You discovered them and you've been working with them yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a webinar you did a few weeks back with Joseph, I think.
Yep.
And it was some really interesting stuff. And immediately they've been really helpful.
That filthy Iowan. He will be back in a couple of weeks for another episode, by the way.
Hey, we're both Iowans, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And the two Nelsons are not related.
So another kind of photo of what I'm working on over with Salo at RoboFlow is training the model to detect these CFUs. At first, I basically trained it to detect any sort of bacterial colonies on these plates, but sometimes these colonies, even though we want them to be spread out, sometimes they do kind of end up touching or interacting. And what we don't want, so that'll turn the shape from a circle to maybe like a figure 8 or just different morphology looking things. And at first I was counting them as sort of like, okay, this is 3 that are just smushed together. Tried counting it as 3 individuals, but RoboFlow has been really helpful in kind of helping me tweak this model so that it can recognize different morphologies here as as either a 2 CFU or a 3 CFU to help make the accuracy of the whole thing better. So even after I thought, okay, this solves the problem, I can detect these colonies, we're good to go. They were still adamant that well, we can make this better. We can rather than trying to tease out the 3 colonies in the smushed ball, let's teach it what 3 colonies looks like. And then of course at a later point I can tell it divide that number by 3, and that's how many single colonies there were there. So yeah, just continued support, continued help with this project.
Quick question, why is the slide from the side? I would have imagined that you would put a top-down view, but this one is from the side.
Sure. So I guess my idea, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this was just sort of the original pictures I began taking, was I didn't want to immediately teach it like, so when I set this up so that the camera, the OAK-D light's going to be taking this picture, it's going to be in the absolute perfect condition, lighting and angle as I can. I wanted to, I guess, I was trying to take pictures that would sort of challenge and give it almost some of the worst scenarios.
Worst scenarios. Okay. Yeah, that's a perfectly valid thing to do. Yeah.
And I mean, even like, I don't even know if it'll be this far away. So we might, this model might be training at a further distance and being able to pick off these small colonies, so hopefully when I, really shove it in the OAK-D light's face, it'll just be like, oh, this is easy, train harder, play hard, train harder kind of thing.
Yeah. As long as, a vast majority of your, let's say 80% at least are from the top-down view, right?
Yes.
Adding these would help, but don't make the mistake of adding only these and not of course. Just checking.
Yes. Yep. We have a number of them. See, that was another thing. I wasn't sure kind of how many, and RoboFlows kind of helped me sort of put a minimum on the number of pictures. I think I have about, I don't know, 45, 50 photos that are annotated, and we're doing about 70% of them in the training set and 20% in the validation set and 10% in the test set. So I think, yeah, most of them are of some sort of top-down measure, but yeah, I definitely threw in some that were sort of challenging. I mean, if you take a look, you can even see I'm counting CFUs on the very bottom of this picture through the side of the glass even.
Right.
And I would never challenge in actuality to count these through the side of the glass. So I mean, it's impressive that they're still detecting through the side.
Right. And the benefit of doing this can also be that when you move to a non-robotic solution, let's say you want to create an app using the same model where you cannot guarantee that people would be following instructions, but it's a cell phone app, right? In that case, the same model would just work out of the box.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's. We're coming up on 9:55. I'm going to pause so we can do our trivia giveaway, just in case anybody has a hard stop. Zach, if you mind unsharing the screen real quick here.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So this is the OpenCV weekly trivia giveaway portion of the show. The way this works is folks in the Zoom chat are going to answer a question that I'm going to ask based on the slides. The first person to answer that question correctly, as it shows up on my screen, will win $200 worth of Microsoft Azure credit from our generous sponsors on awesome Intel hardware. So get ready to answer. And if you've won anything in the last, say, 2 months, please don't answer. Let somebody else get a chance. So we've been hearing a lot about an acronym, CFU. What does that stand for? Dan, you got me, bud. You got me, bud. I'm getting way too predictable. This is Dan Beavers won this one. He had it typed out before I even asked it. Get out of my head, Dan. Get out of my head.
Oh, that was fast.
All right. Well, Dan, please send an email to phil@opencv.org, and we will get you your Azure credits courtesy of Microsoft. Thanks to Sharon at Microsoft for hooking us up with those.
You should throw a curveball next time, something like, you heard the term CFU. It obviously stands for such and such.
I'm just gonna pull a Bilbo Baggins and ask everybody what's in my pockets next time. All right, Zach, continue, please.
Sure. Thank you. So really quickly, where? Here we go. Share screen. I thought it was a good idea, sort of what you were bringing up. So I thought I'd maybe quickly go through a couple of these photos here and so these are some of the different photos on Robo. Can you see these?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are some of the different photos that taken, as well as some blanks, some null photos as well. And here, this goes back to what you're saying about the phone and the app and whatever. I'm actually kind of moving the camera a little bit, so there's a little bit of smear. So it's kind of learning, what that looks like as well. Right. So we have a lot of different angles and kind of views to pick from, and it's really coming along. It's really coming along.
That's great.
All right, now bring back up this. So again, check out my Twitter after this, and I'll be holding a raffle for RoboFlow hat. And then I can't obviously do this without mentioning OpenCV. Yeah, they've been nothing but helpful, and I've been taking one of the course. Well, I went through and sort of took the crash course, or kind of viewed the crash course, and I realized, like, okay, this is some good stuff. That I'm obviously passionate about this. So I signed up for the OpenCV for beginners, and I'm on module 4 right now, and it's really catching me up to speed on different ideas that are coming in handy, such as thresholding and just everything. I had no computer vision experience going into this, and just some minor programming experience, and just so far, even this OpenCV for beginners has been super helpful, especially with this project.
Thank you so much. And I actually did not know that right before the show we were talking and you mentioned it, but before that I did not know that you had taken the course. I'm glad that it's useful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for folks listening out there, watching out there, it's opencv.org/courses.
Yes. And a quick shout. How can I go back here? To Luxonis as well. I actually, Luxonis working with OpenCV with the OakD Lite. It was the OakD Lite I saw on Kickstarter. That was what kind of opened my mind to all of this. I was just sort of going through Kickstarter at the normal tech stuff that I look at, and I saw the OakD Lite, and then I was like, oh, this seems like a great intro to computer vision. And then one thing led to another. I saw this contest, and here we are. So thanks to Luxonis. Also, the CEO Brandon, who he's been a great help with. When I first got the OakD Lite, I was sort of like, what do I do with this? But he showed me, the documentation is really simple, straightforward. OakD Lite up and running in no time, and he's always helpful. Their entire Discord is super helpful. Tons of different moderators who are willing to answer any type of question you've got. I've always got the simplest questions on there, but I'm always a simple question kind of guy. I'm not really afraid to show what I don't know. So yeah, definitely check out Luxonis and the OakD Lite.
So with the current models, what kind of accuracy are you getting? By the end of the contest is still, the deadline is more than a month away, but do you expect to beat human level accuracy or meet the same level of accuracy by then?
So I don't have an exact number right now, but right now it's looking pretty promising. I'm hoping to meet human level accuracy. Because again, one of the issues with why we decided not to use some of the apps that are available in the lab is because even a 10% miss on accuracy overall could be
10%
catastrophic with the scientific method and what we're using it for. So if we're looking at counting colonies at around 100 CPUs per plate, even going from 90 to 110 that 10% inaccuracy can be a problem. I imagine that humans probably do we do miscounting probably, between 0 and 10%. So within that range, I'm not looking quite for perfection because I don't think anything is perfect, obviously. And some of these CFUs are very close together. So I'm hoping that between myself, the OptiLite, RoboFlow, and OpenCV, we can all kind of, it'll get there, hopefully.
So by any chance, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but by any chance, would there be an opportunity for people to get access to the raw data you have so that other people can also contribute a model or try training a model using the data that you have?
That's something that I'll have to look into for at a later date. So, I have these print-offs that I got from online of these colonies, but some of these, the actual colonies I have are of, a few of them are from plates from like my lab. And so I'm not sure if those would be made to be shareable for the whole world, but I could definitely, use this model to train off of images, Google Images and such, and people could then use that model further on. I would make it as much public as I can, obviously.
That's great. Because what I'm thinking is that you have this automated setup now. You can quickly go through many of these pictures, perfectly taken pictures, right? And now once you have this automated setup, the problem becomes a computer vision problem to solve, right? How accurate can you get on the model? And just like the Netflix prize, Netflix had been working on this recommendation engine for a long time, and they made this Netflix prize a competition. And their internal algorithm was, their team had been working on it for several years, but within days, I remember, if I'm not wrong, within days, people were able to beat Netflix's algorithm, right? And several teams, it's not like one. So when you put out things like this to the community and they are ready to share back the model, this thing can be it will surpass human level accuracy without any doubt. I don't have any doubt.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This whole like having us all connected with the internet, and it's crowdsourcing in the mind, basically everyone's minds. I'm just hoping somebody is looking at something I've said here and is just like, oh, I've got let me just, tweet at this guy and tell him like, this is going to make things, much smoother or something. Like, please tell me, if something just is inspired in you, please tell me. Because I'm just one mind, but however many are watching this, I'm sure, like you said, it's exponential.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. Do you have more slides?
Just two more. I wanted to thank Lego Mindstorms, Microsoft Azure for sponsoring. And then I wanted to thank, my lab mates. They're very supportive of me with all of my, not even just this, just whatever crazy ideas I come up with in lab and trying out. They're always, humoring my curiosity. So thanks to them. And with that, again, follow me on Twitter, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. We can get audience questions.
Yeah, definitely. Zach, will you do me a favor? And you had that last slide with your URLs and stuff. Can you put that up real quick? Because people were asking about it in the chat.
Okay, sure. Let me.
Well, I'm grabbing some questions here. Yeah, we've got some good ones here. This has been a really fun show. People are really interested. Perfect. Thank you.
I feel that we got some more rubber duck content here for you.
I love it. Love to see it, folks. And the Unity shirt on the little guy. Where'd you get that?
So this Unity partners with Lego on these small contests to basically teach people how to make micro games, and they do these contests all the time. And I entered one of the contests, and everyone who entered was sent one of these little Unity guys.
That's so cool.
Or girls. And so just check out Unity and Lego, and they teach you how to make a micro game with little Lego figures, and it's sort of an introduction to programming and micro games, and they'll send you one of these just for entering.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. We need OpenCV Lego minifigs.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. You can go ahead and unshare your screen now. Yeah, so lots of really good questions here. People are really responding to the Lego and Petri dish show. First question here is from Niraj, who would like to know: is there any weight difference in the plates between one with a more dense colonies and sparse colonies? Does that actually affect the math here at all in terms of your servos and whatnot?
No, it's negligible, if anything. Yeah, these are very sort of almost tip of a pencil sized light fluffy bacteria. So
yeah, that makes sense. Eli would like to know, is it enough? Why isn't it enough to measure just the coverage in the Petri dish? Could you just kind of segment it and then divide by the standard size of the cell to get similar results in your data?
That's a good question, but I guess I would remind that the number of CFU that we're counting is not just sort of like a raw number of bacteria, but also sort of the genetic diversity of the bacteria in your total solution. So 100 CFU isn't just 100 CFU, it reflects the homogeneity and heterogeneity of the genetic profile of your bacterial solution.
So are you saying that they could be of different kinds inside that 100?
So they're all the same bacteria. Well, if it's not contaminated or if you don't have multiple bacteria, it would be all one bacteria. But each of the CFUs is its own specific, very specific genotype. So it'd be like if 100 of us were standing in a room, we're all human, but we're all slightly different. So you could take a picture and say like, okay, 100 people in the room are taking up this much space, but it's just as important to say, well, we have 100 different genetic makeups there that are the same species, but they're different.
Got it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Timothy would like to know, are the colonies randomly distributed, or is there an edge effect in the colony distribution?
So that's a good question. I would say, so one of the issues, of course, with when I was using some of the apps was the fact that some do form on the edges, but the ones that form on the edges, it's mostly evenly distributed. The ways in which we get, I guess I didn't go over the method in which we put these on there, which is you kind of just squirt like, I don't know, like let's say 100 microliters. If you don't know what that means, like imagine like I don't know, an AirPod size amount, a drop, yeah. And then two methods that are used. The method in my lab is we put, maybe like 10 glass beads, tiny, like the size of the CFU. We just drop them on the agar, and then it's called the Copacabana method. And then you just shake it, and it sounds like a rattle. And the beads are basically rattling around in there, and they're covering themselves with the bacteria, and they're just spreading themselves all over the plate. And you do it enough to hopefully get as homogeneous as you can. Another method is called like a hockey stick method type situation, where you have like a glass rod that is like a hockey stick, and you just kind of spread it around on there. So more hockey.
More hockey content. We love to see it,
yes.
folks.
So there's two methods, and mostly, of course, I guess it probably is easier for solutions to pool in the sides, but it's supposed to be homogeneous as possible.
That's great. So, and that piece in the long run, that piece can also be done using a robot, I guess.
Exactly. So you're starting to see, like, it's very easy to pour those beads. It's very easy to, squirt like a couple drops of liquid. That could all be, just as easy as taking a picture, potentially.
Could you shoot the colonies from like a Red Ryder BB gun?
We can do whatever we needed to. Yeah. One of the ways that we use this bacteria after we plate it like this is you pick off one of the colonies with like a toothpick, and that is supposed to represent homogeneous genetic genotype. And if we needed to use that for something, I could imagine automating the process of just plucking off one of those colonies as well. So I mean, this just opens the door to everything we do on a Petri dish.
Yeah, very, very. The mind reels at the potential. I got one more question here from Michael, who asks, could another method here be to take a binary image and just count the pixels because you know roughly the size of the CFUs?
Yes, that I've kind of thought about that before. I think it'd be very easy to threshold this image and make it binary. And I actually never thought about pixel counting. I just figured turning it binary would just make it just as easy or more easy to sort of count them. But I mean, even pixel counting, yeah, if you could get the average pixels per CFU and then just count the total number of pixels and divide, yeah, that's a great idea.
Cool. Yeah. We're about 10 minutes past the hour. You want to take us home, Satya?
Yeah, thank you so much, Zach. It is incredible that you're not only participating in this competition, you are actually trying to surpass human level accuracy in this domain, and it is going to be very helpful not just to your lab mates but other people in the field as well. I really like your spirit that you decided to join the competition, and you tackled this problem which you did not have any experience in before. So kudos to you.
Thank you
so much. Yeah. And as always, Phil, thank you for organizing the show and managing OpenCV weekly webinar and other things. And last but not the least, thank you, everybody, our audience. You mean a lot to us, and it keeps us motivated to come here every week and deliver interesting content. Before we leave, I just want to give a last notice to people that our Kickstarter campaign for deep learning with TensorFlow and Keras is still on. We just crossed $100,000 in the first 36 hours, and now we are at about 300 backers. So those two milestones have been crossed. If you're interested, please go and check out our Kickstarter campaign. That's all I wanted to mention in this webinar. Thank you again.
Next week, we will have another great team from the OpenCV Spatial AI contest, as well as maybe a little more of a teaser for the forthcoming OpenCV AI game show.
Yeah. One last thing. I really want to thank our sponsors, Microsoft Azure and Intel, for this for helping us organize this contest. They've been our sponsors for the last few contests. It's awesome. Big shout out to them.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Microsoft, Azure, and Intel. Couldn't do it without you.
Thank you. Bye.